I, 17, am the oldest of 3 daughters. My sisters are 13 and 10 years old. I have a good relationship with my middle sister, R. I can't stand my youngest sister, S. S has a nasty mouth that our parents have let her run for as long as she could talk, and I'm sick and tired of having to deal with her mean comments all the time, some of which are petty jabs, and some of which are bordering on problematic. The biggest issue I have with her is her comments towards me. I've had body issues since I was her age, that has continued up to the present day. I've starved myself, I've forced myself to throw up a meal, I've pretty much suffered over my image in every way you possibly can. My parents know about this, and so does my entire family, thanks to an extremely awkward Christmas Day blowout from when I was 14. S uses this against me whenever I freak her out in the slightest. Do I tell her she's being annoying? At least I'm not big. Do we argue at the dinner table over something? At least whenever I walk the ground doesn't shake. My parents have said that she doesn't understand how serious those matters are, and that she'll learn, just like I did. I haven't ever said anything like that, and it frustrates me to no end how they refuse to do anything about it. In a recent talk with my parents, I've told them I want nothing to do with her until she stops talking like that, and when she does, then I might be willing to build a relationship with her. They told me I was being ridiculous, and that it would hurt S that her role model was freezing her out. I'm not perfect, and I've said some bad things too, but I think this is just horrible. Update, hello again. I'd like to thank all of you for your kind words and advice, and for giving me so many different perspectives. I haven't spoken with my parents yet, due to their schedules being unpredictable as essential workers. I've been around my sisters more and taking care of them as a result, which was what prompted me to make this post. Today I was home alone with R and S. We didn't have school today, perk of attending Catholic school, and suggested that we go out and play with our dogs and get some fresh air. Both of them agreed and we spent some time outside before S began to warm up to me. We spent a long time talking about a lot of things, but eventually, we got to our relationship and how the things she said has hurt me and how wrong it is to say things like that. We bonded a lot. I even managed to bring S along with me in the car to pick up lunch. I also gave her an in-depth talk about eating disorders, body image issues, etc., and what I found was that no one had ever taught her how severe those issues were. S was really upset when we talked, and I don't think I've ever seen her show that much remorse for as long as I've been her older sister. She has been apologizing nonstop, and wrote me a long apology and slid it under my door at some point today. I know that I wasn't originally going to talk to her, that was not anywhere in the plan at all. But it kind of slipped into the conversation we were having this morning. This doesn't mean that everything is solved now. I'm still trying to address my issues with my parents, and I think I'll try to get S to see a therapist separately, and with me. I think my parents will be happy that we're getting along, but I don't think they'll be happy with me for talking about sensitive topics with their youngest. Thank you for both the supportive and critical comments, and I'll do my best for the next year I have. Not the idiot. But she is young and doesn't understand the impact these words can have. When I was her age, my sister was so insecure about her weight. So in a bad fight, I would call her big. I just knew it was the easiest way to hurt her. A few years later in my teens, I got it, and have never said it since. Be angry with her, explain how it makes you feel, but also have hope that with maturity she will realize the damage she is doing. Not the idiot, and your parents are setting themselves up for some bigger problems in the future. When you are young is when you learn what's right and wrong, including what you should and shouldn't say. If she's never been corrected, she'll do something to the wrong person at some point. Does she have any problems at school? Does she have any friends her own age? Not the idiot. The fact that your parents aren't going to correct your youngest sister's behavior makes them the idiot. One day she's going to end up running her mouth to a kid at school who is bigger and worse, not necessarily beat her up, hopefully not, and she's going to cry about it, and then your parents are going to act like she's an angel when she's not, and it's going to be a huge "I told you so" moment. To start things off, I don't think his emotional support dog is legit. I don't know the process for getting one or what the requirements are, so I could be wrong, but from my understanding, all he did was fill out a form online, print a certificate, and bought an emotional support animal vest from Amazon. He brings his dog with him everywhere, but it's not trained at all. It barks at people, it's peeing everywhere, and barely listens to any command. When he brings it over, his dog peeing on my floor even after being outside, gets slobber all over the floor after drinking, barks/lunges at the TV, barks when there's a noise outside. I live in San Francisco, noise is non-stop. He's pooped a couple of times, but that's a rare occurrence, thankfully, and when we order food he shares his food with the dog and gets crumbs all over. I tried to be understanding that he needs the dog, but the more I'm around it, the more I'm starting to think there's no way this dog could be legitimately certified as a support animal. He claims his doctor certified he could get one, and as I said, I could be wrong since I don't know the process for getting one or registering one, but his dog has not behaved enough in my opinion. I told him we can hang out, but he can't bring that dog with him. I don't care if it's inside or left outside. Cars and people are constantly going by, so the barking is very annoying. He freaked out and pulled up something on his phone trying to say he's allowed to bring the dog wherever he wants. It's not safe for him to be without his dog and everything under the sun. I told him tough luck, that dog is not welcomed on my property under any circumstances. An hour later he sends me a picture of a letter supposedly from his doctor certifying he needs a support animal and outlining how to support animals work. I said I don't care what his doctor said or what the website says, that dog is not coming in my house until he at the very least potty trains it. The last thing he sent is I need time separated to comprehend what has transpired and be where I am appreciative and welcomed. I think he's being a drama queen about it because he wants sympathy, but a mutual friend of ours thinks I'm being extreme and making whatever his problem is worse by stripping him of his right to have an emotional support animal. Too long, didn't read. Friend's emotional support dog is a mess, and I told him if he comes over he cannot bring it with him until it's properly trained, even with a doctor's note. Not the idiot. A doctor needs to write a letter or prescription for an emotional support animal, and they are a legitimate need for some people. But they are not the same as service animals for the disabled and don't have all the same legal rights. The emotional support animals have legal protections for airline travel and housing, but do not have the same public access rights as service animals. That is, he can't take his emotional support animal wherever he wants. That's for task-trained service animals, not emotional support animals. Not the idiot, your friend's an idiot for not training the dog. If he wants a support dog, he needs to be trained. Nobody should have to suffer from a dog peeing in the house. Either he should get a real support dog or he should get someone or himself to train the dog. Otherwise, I wouldn't let it in my house either. Not the idiot. Few things bother me like a dog owner refusing to train. If you can't be bothered to do the most basic training like getting them housebroken, you don't deserve to have one. An emotional support animal is not a guide dog for the blind. The certificate was easy to get because it's completely meaningless. Even if it wasn't, your house, your rules. So I and my family love having people over for meals. I really enjoy cooking and showing hospitality to my guests. Except now for one member of my family, my cousin. Earlier this year I had a family barbecue over at my place. I had about 40 people over. Now let me preface this by saying I realize that some of my friends and family have various food allergies and preferences. I am more than happy to cater to their needs because I want them to enjoy themselves. But my cousin is just a notoriously picky eater. Even then I try to make things she would usually eat. Well, that particular day I was making lamb chops, sausage, a bit of beef tenderloin, grilled portobello mushrooms, and corn. I also got some hot dogs because I know that's one of the foods she eats. Just as we start to eat, some guy from Uber Eats pulls up. It turns out that my cousin ordered McDonald's and sat there eating chicken nuggets and fries in front of all of us. I took a great deal of offense over this. I invite you over for a meal, and you insult me by ordering food to be delivered because you want to eat something else. I was embarrassed and angry over it. Other people noticed this and there were a few awkward looks, but none of us said anything because we didn't want to make a scene. I vowed afterward never to invite her or her family over again. Jump to this weekend, I'm having another barbecue and invited some of the family over. I ended up inviting her younger brother over because he has been away for school and is now back for the summer. He asked if his sister and her family were coming too, I assumed so he could get a ride, and I said no. At first, I didn't explain why, but because he kept pushing I explained the situation. Well, of course word spreads and the news gets back to my cousin and she and her husband are upset at me. This whole thing blew up, and while I regret ever mentioning the reason why I banned her, I do not want her or her family at my home. Now it's all my family is talking about. Most agree with me, but some are calling me an idiot for it. Oh, for the record, she is a 27-year-old woman with 2 kids, and no, she did not order the McDonald's for them. They and their father were eating the food I prepared. She ordered 2 10-packs of nuggets, a large fries, and Coke and ate it all herself in front of me and the rest of my guests. Everyone's the idiot here. Her behavior is weird, but I'm having trouble seeing why you find it so offensive. She's a picky eater, and presumably not willing to eat the food you had planned to prepare. So instead of asking you to make something else, she took care of food on her own. I agree it's a bit awkward, but banning her from your home seems extreme, especially since you didn't bother to have a conversation with her to explain why you found this so offensive and come up with an alternative arrangement so you aren't offended and she doesn't have to go hungry. Not the idiot, she is a grown woman who could have had a conversation with you about this before Uber Eats pulled up in front of your entire party. You went out of your way to have something on hand you knew she would eat, which is above and beyond if you ask me. This honestly sounds like something I would have done as an idiot teenager to make my mom lose her temper. Not the idiot. Going to someone else's house and behaving in such a manner is unbelievably rude. At the very least, she could have told you in advance so you wouldn't have wasted time and money getting the hot dogs she asked for. I'm sorry the rest of her family will miss out, but she owes you an apology and needs to change her attitude. I'm 27. My parents were 18 when they had me, and up until recently I had zero contact with my mom for the reasons below. She was a party girl when I was growing up, so I was always watched by my grandma instead of her. It was obvious she wasn't that interested in being a mom. Cheated on my dad constantly behind his back since he was working so much. This is the major one. I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 9. What did she do? Took off because it became too much and she couldn't handle it. My dad was there for me every step of the way. I survived, but that deeply messed me up for a long time. My dad was the best ever, and he had me in therapy for a long time after to get over the hurt she caused. She didn't come back. I finally got to a place where I didn't care anymore and considered her dead in my mind. The most surprising thing I learned recently is now she's the one with cancer. My aunt told me it's terminal and doesn't have that long left. They've said less than a year, but I don't know how long she's had this diagnosis. Everyone in my family knows what she did. The only person who stayed in contact with her was my aunt, her sister, and she tells me my mom has changed a lot. All she wants is to talk to me before she dies so we can have closure. I told my aunt that there's no point in my mom and I had closure when she's already dead to me. I can't see my mom and listen to whatever excuses she has when in my mind I've already let her go. There's no point in bringing up old memories when I've moved on, and if she just wants this so she could leave this earth with a clean conscience, then I want to see her even less. My aunt didn't like any of what I said. We did argue back and forth trying to defend my mom because she is full of regret and it's important to find it in my heart to do this. She's telling everyone now and a lot of them are torn. Some of them get she did the same to me so I don't owe her, but others are being vocal about how I should be the bigger person and I shouldn't be talking like that about her. The sad part is it's the family who I care about saying these things, so it's making me feel conflicted if I'm being an idiot. Not that I plan to see her, but still these are people who saw what she did to me and are telling me I'm somehow in the wrong. Not the idiot. Dying doesn't change past mistakes. What you have to decide is what you can live with. Will dragging up old memories and old pain cause you more hurt than the knowledge that you didn't reach out while you could? This will be an irrevocable decision, so you need to think about it carefully. But I can't see how anyone can blame you for not choosing to open up old wounds. Not the idiot. Your mom was a complete idiot while you were growing up. However, I do not think she is an idiot for making the request, which you are well within your rights to decline. Your aunt, however, is an idiot for not accepting your answer and bringing in the whole family into this. If you have closure, then that's fine. Tell your aunt to have your mom write a letter or make a recording of what she needs to say to you for her to have closure. You don't have to open or even keep it. Hopefully it will get them off your back, and if you ever change your mind you will have that. Not the idiot. At the risk of sounding like an idiot, it sounds like she has once again made it about her and not you. She wants to pass on with a less guilty conscience, but just because she's sick doesn't mean you owe her anything. She's not your family. Whoever has supported you through your hard times is your family. You owe her nothing. A little bit of background. I am the sous chef of a small farm-to-table restaurant about 30 miles from where I grew up. The executive chef and I have a system for reviewing applicants. I conduct the first interview, and if I think they have potential, I set up a second interview with the executive. We have worked together for years and he trusts my judgment. Last week, I had an interview with a name I immediately recognized. Let's call him Jake. Jake was in my high school graduating class, and for the good part of junior and senior year, he made my life hell. Now I wasn't particularly popular in high school, but I was never bullied, except by this guy. His favorite thing to do would be to loudly insult me in front of his friends, then force me to leave because I wasn't cool enough to be around his cool friends. This happened at lunch, gym, assemblies, and sporting events. I distinctively remember one football game where he kept telling everyone how much weight I had gained recently, calling me big and making me sit in the bleachers on the other side of the field. I still think about that stuff today, to be honest. Fast forward 10 years later, and he is sitting in front of me interviewing for a job. I decide to not bring this up, and he never mentions any of it. His interview actually went really well, and he had a pretty good resume. But before we even start talking, I know I am not going to hire this guy. I finish the interview, tell him I will be in touch, and he leaves. I later call him and tell him we accepted someone else for the position. As I was driving home, I started to feel a little guilty. This guy was definitely qualified, and we don't see too many applicants being in a small town. High school was 10 years ago. I know I was a different person then, and maybe Jake has changed for the better. Am I wrong to judge someone for their actions so long ago? I definitely feel like a bit of an idiot, but honestly, if I had to work with him again, it would bring up a lot of memories I try not to think about anymore. Not the idiot. Part of the hiring process is ensuring the people you hire aren't a legal liability, or likely to harass members of your team. He has obviously shown himself to be a risk for this, so it's wise not to hire him. If he's really changed, he should apologize and explain what's different, otherwise, I wouldn't hire him either. Not the idiot, I don't think you did anything wrong. I was bullied in high school to a degree that left me in therapy 10 years later. I sure as hell wouldn't be jumping out of my seat to help any of those girls now. I don't hold on to it anymore and I wouldn't do anything to maliciously screw them over, but I sure as hell don't owe them anything either. If he wanted to make sure he had connections in life, he should have treated people with respect. You are the idiot. People change. It's been 10 years and you're turning away someone who has the credentials your company needs. You are being petty and holding on to grudges from a decade ago. Turning away potential good employee, so if you come across someone else who's wronged you, you aren't hiring them either, I guess.